Great. Thanks, Ale and Matthew. I was trying to fix something from the live stream, but it seems that it's working now. So we're going to start. All Devs 41. Welcome, everyone. Happy to have you this week. So as usual, until recently, we do not have updates today, and we're going to jump straight to topics and demos and interesting discussions. I'm wondering if anyone is willing to take notes today. Any volunteer for being the cool note taker of this Monday?
I can take them.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Matthew. Thanks a lot. Being in, if you don't mind helping. I don't know if like there's going to be a lot of things to take note on. Oh, Bing has left. Okay. Okay, so let's go with Matthew for now. There's no one new today on the call, so we're going to proceed. The first topic has been proposed by Brett, and I don't know if it's like a demo topic, probably topic, ENS migration. If you want to address that in the order that it's put on the agenda, we're going to do that. If you want to rearrange it in some other order, please say so. But otherwise, I let you, Brett, take on the lead on this topic and explain us what it's about.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how useful this is really to be, I guess, for the live stream audience if they're curious, because no other teams outside of A1 are really present in this all devs. But the ENS migration happened over the course of the last week and is continuing to happen. Yeah, basically if you don't know that ENS is migrating into main registry, you can go Google that and see what's happening. But basically a whole bunch of contract addresses need to be updated. The previous 0x31415 ... is being moved to one, I think that starts with 6 zeros. There was a big bug that was found in ENS, or rather not really big, but like there was a vulnerability found in it that was unexploited, and henceforth they've migrated the main registry. Yeah, really, I don't want to rehash all the details, but you can Google online if you haven't already been updated on what's happening. For anyone that does own an ENS name themselves, there's not really much to do. The ENS team is migrating your records manually, but themselves. If you own an Aragon ID subdomain, there is nothing to do at this moment as well. We will migrate our subdomains manually at a different time, and you won't be impacted at all by this migration, so nothing to worry about.
Cool. Thanks, Brett, for the update on ENS migration. I don't know who on the call, because is everyone on the call aware of that? Of the ENS migration topic, given that we don't have anyone from other teams? All right, I suppose that it's the case. So we're going to move forward to the other topics, hoping that the live stream audience is going to be there and interested in them. What's next? ACL hotfix. That's another one for Brett.
Yeah, this one is related to anyone who may be developing on top of the ACL right now. Again, this is kind of a announcement / don't worry. We are doing another deployment of the ACL contract to both Rinkeby and Mainnet to support the release of Dandelion organizations. The main problem with the old one was we were setting a gas limit to be used for Oracle calls, for ACL Oracle calls, And since EIP 1884 in the latest hard fork in Istanbul, gas prices have increased a little bit when you're doing when you're loading information from storage. So some of the use cases that Dandelion was working with stopped working because of this hard set gas limit. So what we're doing is removing the gas limit and just letting the ACL Oracle take as much gas as they need to. Again, this is not really going to be used in most currently deployed organizations, but it is important for Dandelion organizations because they use this functionality. Unfortunately, this means we do have 2 sets of ACLs running in both Rinkeby and mainnet, and there will be hopefully some UI indications to say which one you're on. But in the near term, until at least the next release, there's really nothing to be worried about if you're using one or the other. They're fundamentally all the same, except the one has removed this gas hard cap. And for those who aren't using Dandelion organizations, you don't need to, well, you won't be using those features for the most part, and you don't need to upgrade at all. For the next release, we will likely, have an upgrade for everyone, so they'll be all in the same version again. But this is really just to say that there might be 2 of them. You can upgrade to them if you really want to, but it's kind of an advanced feature right now and not really necessary. And there won't be very much support in the UI for doing that.
All right, cool. Thanks for noticing about that. Yeah, thanks for the heads up. Next is the demo by Pierre. Yeah.
I'm going to try in another browser.
Live streaming is on.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you see my screen?
No. Let me.
Yeah, I can.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. So we're working on this this new feature for the client to have multiple providers so that people can decide if they want to connect to the injected provider. So most of the time MetaMask, or to other services. Before that, the way it was working when people were clicking on this button is that it was trying first the injected provider, and then if it wasn't responding, it was trying other types of providers. So it's going to be much better for people, much more flexible, where they can have MetaMask installed but decide to connect to another provider, for example. And to do that, we started working on this library that allows to connect to different providers. So yeah, it just a demo of how it works. So it's really simple. It can connect to different different providers with the as a code that is as minimal as possible. So the idea is really to try to simplify to the maximum, like this situation, to be able to connect to different providers. And here you can see how it works. Basically, you have this wallet object that is coming from a React hook, and then you can interact with this wallet object to do different things. And the library is entirely based on this other library, Web3 React, which is like a connector, like a set of connectors library. And yeah, it's a really good library. But in our case, we want to do a little bit more than this. We want basically to have this standard wallet object that can have things like a balance, which is really useful in the case of Aragon, or the list of the recent transactions also is so really useful for Aragon, and it's something that is really common for dApps to have. So yeah, so that's why we started to work on this library to try to provide an all-in-one solution to connect to different providers for dApps that are using React. Yeah, I think that's all.
That's so cool. Thanks, Pierre, for the demo. It's really cool. I'm looking forward to this. That's so nice. Yep. Alejandro, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So I'm just gonna talk about what happened regarding the Bitler plugin, and after that, if you guys want to see anything in particular, I can show you a little demo. The past week, it's basically or mainly been about testing the Bitler plugin in real applications, let's say, and not just the counter app, and try to imagine how it feels for people using it to develop their own applications. And you can now actually use the plugin very easily by using create Aragon app and specifying the Bitler boilerplate. This version of the CLI or the Create Aragon app is not yet published in an NPM package. You have to sort of build it yourself. You just check out the latest sources, go to the develop branch and build. And yeah, you can use that version of Create Aragon app that has the Bitler template. That will just create a very vanilla project, similar to the ones we had, but much simpler, with everything you need to use the Bitler plugin. And then you just do npx Bitler start or npm start, and it works. You have hot reloading on practically anything. One thing that changed, for example, is that you can now do hot reloading on the script.js, and it actually refreshes the entire browser window, not just the iframe. So yeah, that's really cool. And in general, it's more stable, faster, and it feels better now. And I guess the really big change, which is a great feature, I think, is the hooks. Yeah, maybe I'm going to show that. So 1 second, I'm going to share my screen. So how do you do that here? I've never done it before.
I think it's bottom left.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Show your screen icon.
Thank you. All right. Do you see it? Can you guys see it?
Yep.
Okay. So this file called bitler.config.js is basically what replaces truffle.js. We're not using truffle here anymore. We're using Bitler to compile and all that. And in the Bitler configuration, where you define like the network, the port for the network, where your local chain is, and all that, you can also define some Aragon specific properties, which are properties specific to our plugin, and you can define like obvious things like the ports that you're using, etc. But you can also define an object that contains functions which will be called during the development pipeline. So in this case, I'm just requiring a file to have that on a separate file, and it looks like this. So you have like pre-DAO hook, post-DAO hook, pre-init hook. Each one will be called on a different moment of the whole like development process. For example, getting it params will be called when you are creating a proxy and it needs to be initialized. So normally you would use some sort of weird script and use JQ or whatever to pass that on to a bash command, and now you can do everything from a single place in JavaScript. For example, if you need to deploy a token and pass that token to the init params, you can do that. Deploy the token in pre-init, which is before the proxy is created, and then specify the token address in the getInit params if your application requires that the token's address when it's being initialized. And you have other hooks like post update, which will be called after a proxy is updated, or post DAO, which will be called after a DAO is created for your local development environment. And yep, that's pretty much it. We are in good shape for an official release of the Bitler plugin in about 2 weeks.
Cool. Yeah, it's cool. You good?
Yeah. I just wanted to know if anyone has a question.
Yeah, questions? Anyone?
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Ale. Was really cool. I love seeing you guys demoing stuff. Yeah. Next conversation is the last one. It's a update on app mining and on-chain analytics. So yeah, Brett, it's yours.
Sweet. So Luke is actually probably the best one to do this, but I can also try and demo. Let's see if I can also get on here. So let me just give me 1 second to log into Scout and we can run through these briefly. All right, looks like everything's getting set up. Let me start sharing my screen. Yep. All right. So you should be able to see my screen, I think. Let me know otherwise.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, the first thing to talk about is app mining, which is, I believe, one of the AGPs. I forget exactly which number, but OneHive is basically working on something equivalent to what Blockstack was doing with their own app mining. We're basically looking at applications here. If we go to this tab, so you can visit this if you go to apiary.onehive.org. Apiary, I don't know, I don't need to spell it, but I guess you can find it somewhere. If you look for Aragon app mining, you'll probably also find links to Apiary. But Apiary is an organization aggregator and viewer on top of Aragon. It basically listens to all the on-chain events and tries to aggregate that information through a front end. So they've recently just updated the front end and what events they're indexing to build a sort of score for apps. And the idea is that the score will be used to help incentivize app developers and give back to these app developers some funding if they're doing well in terms of user activity and installations. Now, the score itself is going to be most likely tweaked as we go over time and see kind of what applications are being used and whether or not people are gaming the current score. But right now, I think it's fairly basic. It's just like number of installs times AUM times number of activities based on this application, and with some various weighting applied to each part. But you can see that there's 45 applications on mainnet now deployed and you can see the various scores that are given to each application. Again, the Aragon apps, the default ones, have a very high score because they're installed in every organization, and of course they're getting used by most of these organizations. But we can go down and see kind of more interesting custom applications that people are using, like the Simple Minter that's been installed by 3 organizations. It currently has a score of 4. Now, the score itself is a bit hard to view on its own. Like, what does 4 mean out of a possible score? But it's interesting to see it relative to all the other applications. For example, 4 is just half of what the Vault is doing, which is quite interesting. But also 4 is larger than the fundraising app, for example, which is 2 times as large as the fundraising app. As well, we can see kind of in the next couple of pages all the different applications that have been created and used by organizations on mainnet, some of which really even know about as a team at A1. But it's really interesting to see that people are playing and installing with their own applications that they're developing, and they're finding some use. We can also find most of the open enterprise applications here as well, and their scores and how many times they've been installed. So this is just kind of something interesting to explore. The organization side too, you can also do various things in this front end, like sorting organizations by which template they were made from. So we can find, for example, all the fundraising organizations. Maybe this hasn't been hooked up yet. But yeah, we can find all the company organizations. Right now, they're sorted by score. So we can see that A1, which is a company organization, is the most used, I guess, or the most active organization by this weighting system. We can also kind of just look over. Actually, I don't know how to get back to all. Let's go to clear. You can see over everything that it's not actually one of the Aragon-owned organizations that is doing the most interesting activity. There's one organization here that's doing one mysterious, I should call it, organization that is doing 4,000 transactions in, well, I guess since it was created in February of last year. So they're almost a year old and they've done 4,000 transactions with their organization. This is quite interesting to see, and it's quite interesting to explore and play with as you kind of go into these organizations and see what they're doing. So this is one dashboard. Now there's slightly competitive, or what would I call it? Like slightly different view, I guess, on the entire network of Aragon organizations in Scout. Scout is another company that we partner with. They provide dashboards for Ethereum-based protocols and apps, and they've built a bunch of charts and other aggregations that help us view the network as a whole. And there's a public version of this if you go to scout.cool/Aragon. But as people who are registered and logged in, we can kind of see a few more details that aren't shown by default in the open view. For example, we have the active organizations, we have the total organizations created, both of which really help us view the network state as a whole and see where we're moving as a whole. We have here the total AUM, so we're about 3.5 million for just Psi, DAI, ANT, and ETH. But in here as well, we can see kind of a bunch of insights that, you know, if you aggregated the entire network, it's quite interesting just to see what's going on. And the main one I wanted to point out here was the active organizations as well. So here's kind of a different view, a more granular view, I guess, of what's been happening to all organizations. So if we go back for let's go to September of this year until February, so about a 5 to 6 month period, we can start sorting these tables based on the activity that they've had in their applications. And so we can go and see that, okay, this organization, there's 292 tracked activity across all the different apps that they might have installed. But it allows us to see, like, okay, how many organizations are using the rewards app or the address book or the projects app or finance, for example. I think there's also agent here as well. So we can see kind of a few organizations making use of the agent app. But it's just kind of interesting insights that we're starting to get now with some of these aggregators. If you have questions or like other interesting tidbits that you might find interesting, then I guess you can contact us on Rocket Chat or email or on the forum or something to get more of this. Hopefully we will be presenting a more monthly or quarterly update to some of these insights, so we can kind of update the community as we go with what we're seeing on chain and just building excitement that way.
Yeah, that's so exciting. Also, like, I've been using Appear a bit in the recently, and there's a really cool thread on the forum that Luke has posted on the updates and the inner workings of the scores and metrics. So if you want to have a look at this, I've linked into in the chat, and we'll put it in the notes. Yeah, one thing to know is I think that the indexing in the past few days for the Apiary Explorer has been paused, but should be back on soon. Yeah. So any more remarks, questions, or discussions around this last presentation from Brett? All right, cool. So I hope the content has been useful to viewers as well. Thanks a lot, guys, for joining. Thanks also for the nice presentations, Ale, Brett, Pierre. Really cool from you guys. We'll see each other in 2 weeks. And have a great day, great rest of the week.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.